What's good, folks? Listen, in this video, we're gonna be covering The Walking Dead. And every character, they got their strengths and they got their weaknesses. But today, we're gonna be breaking down the biggest flaw for every character in Telltales. So, first up, we got Lee Everett. The man's Lee. Listen, Lee, he a natural leader. He protective and he really care about Clementine. I gotta say, for his biggest flaw though, it gotta be his past and how he was keeping it a secret for a minute. Listen, we all know what happened with Lee Everett in his past story. Senator started sleeping with the man's wife. He wasn't rocking with that, and he kind of crashed out. Listen, my man's Lee. His intentions with the group, they were all good, and you could have kept that a secret from them. If you would have though, that would have caused some mistrust in the group. Next, we got Clementine. Listen, Clementine, she grew up to be a dog. I'm talking about she a fierce warrior. She's a survivor. But I gotta say her biggest flaw, it gotta be her struggles to trust people. Listen, after everything she went through in the season of season 1 and season 2, after we got to the New Frontier, she was not trying to befriend anyone for real. She was trying to be a part of the group, but she wasn't trusting nobody. And it is very understandable, I'm not gonna lie. Because everybody either did it wrong or everybody, got put on the map. Or we don't even know. Now next up, we got Kenny. Hey, love him or hate him, you already know what Kenny's about. Kenny, he got his loyalty, he care about his people. But it gotta be his impulsiveness that really, it gotta be his greatest flaw. Because don't get me wrong, everybody love Kenny, but his emotions, they get in the way of the judgment, and he got a quick temper. So sometimes it put others at risk, especially when AJ involved. I'm looking at you, Jane. Listen, you already know how I feel about Jane if you watched the last video, but we moving on. Lily, listen, Lily, she started off as Lily was the real strategic leader in the beginning. But I think her biggest flaw was her authority. Now listen, her losing her father, that grief, that pain she was feeling, that changed her a whole lot. And for real, she wasn't taking other people's input into consideration. Or in other terms, it's my way or the highway. Listen, we all heard that before. That's kind of how Lily is, but a little bit more evil in a sense.
Here we go again.
Now, moving on, everybody's favorite, Ben Paul. Listen, I'm not gonna lie, with Ben, I could go on a rant about everything that's bad about him, but at the same time, he just trying to live his life, man. Let's cut him some slack. I'm just kidding. Listen, he lacks confidence and he's always scared. He got a lot of fears and he consistently second guessing himself, and he's very unreliable. And not only that, he contributes to a lot of deaths of the key people of the group, of people that we really cared about. But for the sake of me not making a 10-minute diss track about Ben Paul, we gonna move on. Carly. Now listen, Carly, great ally to have. She a sharpshooter. And her biggest flaw, I think, is this gonna sound crazy. Maybe she was a little overconfident. This is why I say that. Listen, she got bold. She got real bold with Lily and put her in her place. And her speaking like that, I'm not gonna lie, she didn't think Lily was liable to crash out like that. So it backfired on her. Her confidence kind of did her in a little. Really, it was Lily. But hey, we gotta have some type of flaw. Next up, Larry. Larry, we know him, Lily's father, tough old school dude, and his biggest flaw, probably his distrust for others, and especially for like Lee and Duck, and like bro really wanted to get the kid up out of there, little ducky duck, before he even got bit. But another thing about Larry, this man was not adapting to nothing. He couldn't accept the change. So that's the flaw about Larry. Next up, Jane. Alright, so Jane, you already know, she want to be the lone wolf. She trying to be the strategic thinker. And I feel like one of her biggest flaws is a philosophy that I feel like she lives by. When I say that, she believes that all the choices she make is necessary for survival, and she got no empathy, and she was willing to manipulate others to fit her needs. Like, let's be honest, when she did that AJ thing with Kenny, she was really trying to manipulate Clem into seeing that Kenny was supposed to be this bad person. And ultimately, that would lead to her death. Hey, I ain't shedding no tears. But, next up, my man's AJ. Now, finally, we got AJ. Now, AJ, he youngs, he listens to everything you say. But I gotta say, his biggest flaw, and not to say this is a bad flaw to have, but he don't understand what the world is like before the apocalypse. He was raised entirely in survival mode, so he struggled to understand what other people see, why other people are sad, because that's the only world he knew. And ultimately, you can't fix that. He ain't living the peaceful times. And I feel like that's really what made him make those decisions, like what he did with Marlon. And yeah, it's not every flaw I think is gonna be that bad. This one, it's just one of them. Next up, we got Christia. Now, Christia, she level-headed. She's strong. I feel like her flaws, they only come at the very end when you last see her. But the flaw that I'm talking about is how she just got emotionally detached after losing on Mead. Listen, I feel like she just gave up on life. It's a sad, tough moment, and it made her cold and kind of unapproachable. And now we gonna cover Omid. Omid, listen, he was a light-hearted person. He was very optimistic, but I think his flaw, it was the fact that he kind of had to downplay everything. Now listen, I know humor probably brought him some relief, but it really caused him to overlook how crazy some of the situations is. Listen, that's just how my man's Omid is. Next up, we got Sarah. Sarah flaws. I'm gonna try to say something good about Sarah. She seemed like she just seemed a little bit good-hearted. Now, Cheryl's flaws. It's the opposite with AJ. She doesn't know what the apocalypse life is, and she's just sheltered by her father Carlos, and she was never prepared for the actual reality. And when she got hit with that reality, she couldn't do nothing. She was frozen. But now we about to get into Javier Garcia. Now Javier, he is a strong leader as well, and his major flaw, this one might be a little bit of a pull, but I'm gonna say he's real quick to react, and sometimes it could put his loved ones in jeopardy. And this one specifically, I'm talking about the Jonah incident. If you know, you know. Next up, we got Kate Garcia. Isn't Kate Javier's love interest? She's resourceful, but I feel like her flaws, it lies in her tendencies to avoid the difficult conversations. And this created a little misunderstanding with her relationship. It's already complicated with Javier and with their family. Like, we don't know what's going on. But next up, we got David Garcia. David, Javier's brother. Listen, he's extremely protective, but I'm gonna say his biggest flaw, listen, the man a control freak. Like, calm down. He always feel like he gotta control everything that happens around him. And I feel like he's so controlling that it really pushes everybody away from him. And especially Kate and Javier. And we don't know what they got going on. But next up, we talking about Trip. Trip, that one right there, that's a stubborn boy. And he is hard-headed as they come. He don't compromise for nothing, for no one. And this really caused some tension in the group. And I feel like with this tension, it just put the group at risk, because you over there fighting with each other, you ain't even worried about the stuff outside, because you over there trying to throw hands with Javier, throw hands with whoever else. Now, let's talk about Eleanor. She seems to be a compassionate medic, but her flaws, she's untrustworthy. She will trade the group. You do all this stuff to help her out, and she just throw you under the bus to Joanne. But I want to talk more about her character because really, it might not be all that bad. Listen, I feel like she might have some high ambitions with the medical staff, but at the same time, she prioritized her survival over the entire group's survival. That being said, though, nobody perfect. Listen, all these characters, they got some type of flaw, and that really what makes them way more compelling and way more relatable. Listen, what do you think about these characters? And for a little extra on, do you think Eleanor had good intentions when she told on the whole group? Do you think that just maybe her backstabbing ways could have led to her saving more and more lives? But that being said, like, hit the whatchamacallit, subscribe, and we out.